Okay, what I'd like to do is call a good friend of Helping Hearts and Homes, Assemblyman Michael Fitzpatrick, re-elected Assemblyman Michael Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Mike Fitzpatrick, and I'm the Assembly member for the 8th District here in Smithtown, which encompasses the entire township of Smithtown and a little bit of the Iceland portion of Hop. Thank you. Nice to meet you as well. I've been in the Assembly for 20 years, and I go way, way back with Gary. Gary's daughter and my daughter grew up together. We're classmates at St. Patrick's School down the road, Patty, and we've been friends ever since. Patty introduced me to Kelly, which introduced me to Helping Hands at Home, Helping Hearts at Home. I'm sorry. Before you get slipped. But as a member of the Assembly, I can tell you that the state of New York, the state government, plays an active role in the delivery of health care. And you know that very well, I think, being in this line of work. So we are going back to session in January in a couple of weeks for a new session. We have a newly elected governor, Governor Hochul, who was appointed after Governor Cuomo stepped down, was elected in her own right. We have a new legislature. We've had some changes in the legislature, and we're going to be dealing with some very interesting and essentially, tough issues. We're in an economic period right now where we have rising inflation. We have the great, what do they call it? The great resignation. We're having a problem finding labor to fill not just jobs in healthcare, but jobs across the economic spectrum. We're a high-cost place to live and work in the state of New York, just like places like New Jersey and California. And we're losing people, and we're not getting economic growth because people are leaving and what they say, voting with their feet, going to places like Tennessee and North Carolina, Texas, Florida, states that have a lower tax burden. So that is something we need to, I believe, work very hard and work harder at in the state of New York. A few years ago, Governor Cuomo had a great line. He said, New York does not have a future as the tax capital of the nation. So we have to lower that tax burden so that more people will remain in New York, people will consider moving to New York, and most importantly, that businesses will consider growing and coming to New York State, which will help all of us. But in the meantime, we have our first and largest task is to develop the budget, which we have to perform by April 1st. That's the statutory deadline. The governor has to provide her preliminary budget by February 1st, and we then have a couple of months when all the stakeholders begin to lobby, and our Ways and Means hearings, so all the stakeholders come and make their case for additional funding. I can tell you, after 20 years in the Assembly, no one has ever come to Albany to ask for less money, and nobody has ever come up to Albany to say, we're okay with what we had last year. Everybody wants more. Almost everybody needs more, and our responsibility to govern is to choose. My hope is to create an environment where our economy can not just prosper, but grow so that we can keep ahead of our expenses and meet the needs of the people you serve, to provide you with not just employment, but growing income. Prosperity is what it's all about. We need to create more prosperity in the state of New York so that people can enjoy a quality of life, raise their families, and I hope retire in New York State. We have too many people who retire and leave New York State, so we need to change that as well. So we have a lot on our plate in the state of New York, in Albany, and it is my goal that to do what we can to help the healthcare industry, specifically care at home. Just the other day, we had a meeting with the Catholic Health System. We'll be meeting with the Stony Brook Health System, and we talked to the Northwell people as well. The three big systems here on Long Island. Healthcare is changing very rapidly, as you all know, and more of that care is going to be delivered in the home. And that's the role all of you fill. And places like St. John, which are very important also. Just like Drew, my mom's in assisted living up in the Albany area. Thank God it's there, because it's very difficult to care for people at home in the economic climate. Just given today's lifestyle, it's very hard. It's not like the old days. Many years ago, we had a facility, we had 3 facilities here in New York, here on Long Island rather. Pilgrim State, the Central Islip Psychiatric Center, and the Kings Park Psychiatric Center. At one time, that was the largest concentration of mentally ill patients anywhere in the world. All right. So over time, with the development, the onset of psychotropic drugs, and the deinstitutionalization movement that started after the Willowbrook controversy back in 1974. Anybody with gray hair might remember that here, but some of you may not say, what's Willowbrook? But with the deinstitutionalization, we created group homes and moved those with developmental disabilities out of an institutional situation. We no longer house our mentally ill in that fashion. So that was after a big lawsuit after the Willowbrook controversy. That, by the way, is what created Geraldo Rivera, for those of you who know who that is. He was a local reporter at Channel 7 News in the city. He broke that story, and it changed how we treat the mentally ill forever in the state of New York. But that has created some other problems. So, the way we treat, and I think in New York, quite frankly, we do a better job than most other states in how we handle the mentally ill. But of late, a lot of mentally ill should be back in an institutional setting. They should not be allowed to go out on the streets. And part of that is just give them the drugs and let them go. You can no longer afford to do that. It's not good for them, not good for society, and it's not good all the way around. But that is, that is a big issue we're going to be addressing with that as well. So there are exciting things going on in healthcare, but delivery of care to the home, to the patient is critical. I think that's the role you all play, and you do it very well. And I think you're very fortunate to have, I think, a leader like Kelly. I can tell you, because I spent years in the business myself, if you have a 4% match in your 401k, boy, you're very, very fortunate to have the ability to purchase life insurance through and to be in an industry that is growing is also very important. As they say, the trend is your friend, and the trend toward more care delivered in the home is very important. So you're in a good industry at a good time, and you have an employer that's willing to spend money to take care and treat their employees very well. So I can tell you, when I first got elected, I put a little bit away in my what they call a 457, which is a 401k for government people, and I can tell you, 35 years later, I have a nice nest egg, and I would recommend that you listen very carefully and put that money. Don't leave money on the table. When there's a match, if you're not doing at least 4%, you're leaving money on the table. That's important. And there are tax benefits to being in a 401k. You can lower your tax, your federal and state liability. So I'm a big fan because I was in the industry. I'm a believer, and I've been a big advocate for pension reform in the state, but I believe the saving for retirement is so critically important, and it really doesn't cost you much. So, please pay very close attention to what Drew has to say when you sit down with him, and then purchase some life insurance because it's very inexpensive. God forbid something happens. It's nice to know it's there. So for pennies on the dollar, you create an instant estate. God forbid there's a tragic occurrence in the family. I know it's happened in my family. And I can tell you, I'll close with this one story. I said when my dad passed away, my father, a few years before he passed away, had purchased some additional life insurance, and he was up in age. And of course, the older you are, the more expensive insurance is. And my mother said to my dad, we don't need to spend this much on insurance. My father told my mother, you need this, we need this, it's important. And basically my dad ignored my mom and purchased the insurance. I can tell you, when my dad passed away, the first thing my mother said after she found out how much of a benefit she was going to receive to maintain her lifestyle, she said, thank God your father never listened to me. All right? So that is important. It not only allowed her to maintain her lifestyle, she was able to actually enhance her lifestyle. So it's important. So, when you have benefits from your employer, and the state and federal governments encourage employers to do this. We give tax benefits to encourage employers to do the right thing. Please take advantage of it. So with that, I will close. I want to wish everyone a happy holiday season, a prosperous new year. Better days are coming. Tough times don't last, tough people do, and I know in healthcare, we're all tough people. So